That's not what I meant to do. Welcome back into Foolish Club Media. I am Steven Serda. Woo! Rocky Magaña. As we have each and every week this season, we are recapping the Kansas City Chiefs game against the Buffalo Bills. It's an AFC Championship game. The Chiefs advance with a 32-29 win over the Buffalo Bills to go to their third straight Super Bowl. Rocky, unreal. Of course, it came down to the final moments. Of course, it came down to one possession. And even when it looked like the Chiefs were playing their best football of the season in the first half, they had to let things get close in the second half because that's the only way the Chiefs know how to play football now. And so while we had to sit here and stress, and Rocky, I legitimately believe I was stressing more in this game than I was during the 13-second game. Like, I'm sitting here sweating and pacing, and I feel like I am totally drenched in like cold, nerve-wracking sweat right now. But the Chiefs get it done, Rocky. The Chiefs pull it off. They're going to their third straight Super Bowl. The three-peat is still alive, and it's on the back of what I think is one of their best performances of the season. I think you're muted, Rocky.
Muted. Dang. My God, Steven Serda.
Off to a great start here.
Off to a great start, everybody. What is this, beach season? Off to a great start. My God, Steven Serda. The coronary kids do it again. I literally think I lost 10 years off my life in the second half of this game. And I tell you what, I'll give another damn decade for a win in New Orleans here in a couple of weeks because we are going back for the three-peat. The dream is alive. One win away from immortality. Patrick Mahomes is literally, there's never been another player as clutch as him. I don't give a crap about Tom Brady. I don't give a crap about Joe Montana, whoever else you want to try to put up there. There is nobody else in the fourth quarter, game on the line, have to have it play that's going to make a play like Patrick Mahomes is. I mean, that he is, you can scheme against him. You can do whatever you want. You're not going to be able to beat him in a do or die game. We said all year that the Chiefs were just going to flip it on in the postseason. Literally, the Chiefs were heads and tails, in my opinion, the better team in this game. Like, it wasn't even close in the first half. And then there was a couple stupid mistakes, like the fumble on the exchange. You know, we'll get to a little bit here by Mahomes to Pacheco and a couple defensive gaffes. But I mean, like, talent-wise, scheme-wise, the Chiefs were the better team from beginning to end, where if they lost this game, you were going to be a little pissed off and feel like they let one get away from them. But they didn't, because in the fourth quarter, there's nobody better than Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And that is why I am enjoying my 3 fingers of Buffalo Trace Victory whiskey right now, because we're going
I've got some beers. I refused to drink in the first half, and it was all going to plan in the first half. I felt so good about it. Then the Bills get that last second touchdown to Mac Hollins, which Mac Hollins was a problem. There was secondary issues tonight that I want to discuss, and some things that I think the Chiefs have to adjust over the next 2 weeks before we get to the Super Bowl, where they will face the Philadelphia Eagles, who, while I think the Chiefs still have the difference maker in that game in Patrick Mahomes, that's a very talented Philadelphia Eagles team. So we'll have plenty on that here at Foolish Club Media over the next couple of weeks for you guys. But there was some secondary issues. There were some issues with the run defense tonight. There was lots of things, but you're totally right. And like, I didn't crack a beer until that second half. Buffalo comes out, forced the Chiefs to punt on their first possession. Buffalo comes out, only passes the ball one time, proceeds to just run it down the Chiefs' throat and find the end zone. And that was basically their game plan in the second half, finding something that they could exploit within the Chiefs' defense and saying, we don't think you guys can stop us when we commit to the run. And we weren't doing that enough in the first half. So credit to the Bills staff, because that was an incredible adjustment that made me sweat this thing enough to start drinking beer in the second half of this football game, Rocky. I think every Chiefs fan in Kansas City deserves to have some drinks right now, because that was the most nervous I've been for a Chiefs playoff game. And even when they lost to the Bengals, like, that was frustrating and upsetting. The 13-second game against the Bills in the divisional round, that was one of the craziest games I've ever seen in my life. But at the end of the day, this one for what it means for history, for what it means for the implications of this team and their legacy and how important they are to the NFL and the history of the league in general, they're still alive, Rocky. They still have an opportunity to cement themselves as the greatest team in NFL history with the greatest player that we have ever seen. And they did that today by doing what they had to do and doing it when millions of people across the country are rooting against them, hoping that they fail, hoping that they don't do this, that they can't pull this off. They still get it done, Rocky. In the most important moments of the game, even when there was frustrating plays, even when there was breakdowns in coverage, even when the offense was piling up mistakes in the second half, in the most important moments of the game, this team gets it done, and they advance to their third straight Super Bowl.
Yeah, they did. And listen, I was with you. I didn't drink it all in the first half either, mostly because my kids were still awake, and I try not to let them know what a total degenerate I am in front of them. I try to hide it from them as much as possible. And I was like, maybe I won't have to drink in this game because the first half went pretty good. And then the third quarter started, and I just started, shotgunning PBRs as fast as I could. Just wanted to mainline them right into my system because I could not live through that third quarter without a beer in my hand. But yeah, no, it's insane that just how the ball bounced in Buffalo's favor in this game in many ways too, right? I mean, it's not like Buffalo played error-free football. They put the ball on the ground a significant number of times.
They fumbled four times.
Yeah, they just happened to come up with them, and the Chiefs didn't come up with all their fumbles. I mean, it's one of those things where the ball is funny shaped, and it's a game of inches, and it's going to go against you sometimes. And it did today, but the Chiefs are that team that is good enough. I would never say the word good again in regards to this team, that are great enough to overcome the ball bouncing the wrong way. They are great enough to overcome a complete momentum swing in the third quarter and to take charge of it. They're great enough to line up and know that even though the opposing team thinks they know what's coming at them, they're still going to get that first down to close out the game anyway. We are watching greatness. If the Chiefs are 1 game away from immortality. If the Chiefs finish off this three-peat, I don't care how many Super Bowls Brady has. I don't care how many Super Bowls the Patriots had. I don't care if Mahomes never surpasses Brady in the number of Super Bowls that he wins. I think he will, but I don't care if he does or not. There has never been anybody in the history of the NFL who has won 3 consecutive Super Bowls. That puts you in a rarefied territory that is reserved for immortality and greatness. You are one of one, and there is nobody who can take that away from you. There is no tomorrow. There is no yesterday. There is only the ball. There's only the game in front of you, and there is only one more task to finish. And I am so jacked, Steven Serda. I got zero doubt that the Chiefs finish this thing off.
And again, we'll have everything you need to know about this matchup with the Eagles, which I do think it's a very tough matchup. The Eagles are a loaded team, but I think that the difference between them and the Kansas City Chiefs is like Jalen Hurts is a limited quarterback compared to Patrick Mahomes. Like that's going to be the deciding factor in this Super Bowl matchup. Not to mention the fact that this is the Eagles' second Super Bowl appearance in 3 or 4 years, and if the Chiefs manage to pull this off, first off, not even discussing how difficult it is just to get there, because in the Super Bowl era, the teams that had a chance at it didn't even get back there because of how difficult it is and how unprecedented it is. This doesn't happen. We're witnessing history unfold with literally the greatest player that we've ever seen in NFL history playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. He gets it done all of the time, no matter what the circumstance, no matter the situation, no matter what they need to ask him to do. He finds a way to take care of business and get it done and get them where they want to go. And so then now we're talking about them actually playing and actually finishing this thing off. You start talking about all of the circumstances they've overcome this season, all of the injuries, everything they've had to fight through and figure out. Like, this is incredible. Like, we are witnessing history right now in what this Kansas City Chiefs team has done. And we need, I want to break down the game and everything, but I am just floating right now, Rocky, because this was an extremely nerve-wracking game. There was a point in the game where when Buffalo took the lead, and I was like, well, even if the Chiefs go down and score, like, I'm not confident right now in the defense. I'm not confident the defense is just going to stop Josh Allen, because Josh Allen and this rushing attack has been getting everything they want in the second half and doing it with ease. And they haven't been getting the same kind of pressure that they were getting in the first half. And like, the blitzes weren't getting home. And Josh Allen, when he was passing, he was making the plays that he needed to make. And so there was parts in this game where I was legitimately nervous, and credit to the Buffalo Bills, because they played this thing tremendous. I know everybody talks about McDermott and the ways that he's fallen short in the postseason. This is one of the best games he's ever coached, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, we talk about it all the time, Rocky, and it was my biggest factor coming into this game for the Kansas City Chiefs, is that, like, the Bills are an extremely well-coached team, top to bottom, but they don't have the superstars that the Chiefs have. They don't have the Hall of Fame caliber players that the Chiefs have. And at the end of the day, it was the Chiefs difference makers that came up in the biggest moments. And I want to start with the Chiefs offense, really, Rocky, because for everything that's been made of this Chiefs offense, yeah, it's not the high-flying passing attack that we were hoping it would be coming into the season, but it has become this efficient, methodical, we're just gonna bleed you to death with 1,000 paper cuts type of offense. And the first half, aside from that fumble, which, yes, that was frustrating because it was actually coming off the back of Mahomes just getting drilled in the pocket and losing the football, but because of a penalty, it didn't matter anyways. And then a couple plays later, there's just a botch miscue between him and Isaiah Pacheco. It's kind of a read option. Mahomes tries to pull it too late and doesn't hang on the ball and drops it. And it's just a dumb, annoying turnover, whatever. But that was the only flaw in the offensive game plan in the first half for the Kansas City Chiefs. Other than that, they didn't punt until the third quarter, Rocky. Like, they were flawless, and they were this efficient, unstoppable attack, which is what we were seeing prior to their divisional round matchup against the Houston Texans, which I think we can definitively say that was a game plan specific matchup where they were like, we're just not going to take any risks. We're not going to put Mahomes in a situation where these pass rushers can get after him. And so this game, it was, we know we got to go put up points. We know we got to score on this Buffalo Bills team, and we know where the weaknesses are in their defense that we can exploit. And the Chiefs did that to perfection in the first half of this contest.
Oh, without a doubt they did. It was like, I mean, I'm loving this vintage Andy Reid West Coast offense of just quick slants, wide shallow crosses, quick passes to the flats, get the ball in your playmakers' hands. I mean, it's so much fun to watch Pat just read the defense and dissect their weaknesses. Honest to God, it looks so much like vintage Peyton Manning when he had like Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne when he would hit them on those quick slants. And it's so enjoyable to watch just Patrick Mahomes operate like a surgeon out there on the field against the Bills defense. And the Bills like they had their deficiencies coming in. And the thing about it is, you talk about Sean McDermott, coaching a great game, and he really, really did, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We'll talk about the offensive side here after this. I got some thoughts on that, but it's crazy to me that the Chiefs are able to develop wide receivers now. It seems like at a point where when Xavier Worthy first started the season, right, we're like, okay, he's kind of a big play guy. We're not really seeing the speed on the field. We're not seeing that, 4.2 speed that set the 40 record at the combine. Like, he's not a contested catch guy, yada, 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 all this stuff.
Fast forward, nice contested catch today.
Fast forward now, back-to-back weeks with contested catches. He's like, Keon Coleman, move over. I'm the contested catch guy in this draft class. And I mean, DeAndre Hopkins has talked about how him and Xavier Worthy have sat down and talked and like exchanged notes essentially, and how he's tried to help out Xavier Worthy like in his like develop as a wide receiver, and that he's also taken some things from Xavier Worthy that Xavier Worthy has taught him because he says he's not too proud to learn. And I think that what the key to the Chiefs team is there is an ingrained humility. I was thinking about like, how do you catch this lightning in a bottle today, right before the game, that the Chiefs are going for their third straight Super Bowl. Nobody's ever done it. To do that, you don't just have talent. Every team in the NFL has talent. The Buffalo Bills are an extremely talented team. The Baltimore Ravens are a very talented team. You have to have a culture in the locker room that is unique in a way that nobody else has. And the Chiefs have built that over the course of many years to the point where your best players, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, even DeAndre Hopkins, who's a seasoned veteran, there is no like, I am the greatest of all time. Like, listen to me. I'm the vet. I know what I'm talking about. There's an ingrained humility in the locker room where everybody's just trying to learn from each other and everybody's trying to get better. And all that matters is getting better and winning football games. And there is like it's the epitome of like, and it's such coach talk, but like the name on the front's more important than the name on the back, like something your dad would say, right? Like, or your uncle would say when he was half drunk at a family reunion. And it's true though. The Chiefs play like the name on the front is more important than the name on the back. And everybody knows that if everybody goes out there, they're going to achieve greatness and they're going to do something special if they all just stick with it together. And this is a side note because I know we're getting the defense, but God dang it. Turn me up when I see Chris Jones crying on the sidelines every single time. Yeah. Every single time. I mean, this team just wants it so bad, and it's so awesome.
And we'll get into the good and the bad from the Chiefs defense today, because I think it's also like these kinds of playoff games, it's hard to be like, oh no, the Chiefs defense is falling apart, when it's like, no, this is what playoff games are supposed to look like. This is what these teams have been every practice, every game, everything they've been building and overcoming all season. It all comes down to these games. So you're getting the absolute best from everybody in these situations. So it's hard to read into like postseason defense. Cause like, remember in the Eagles Super Bowl, like that matchup on paper, we were worried about that being like this offensive shootout or something like that. Or is this going to be a slower, like low scoring game? And then it was just like, no, we're just not going to punt the ball. Everybody's just going to score on every possession in that game because the offensive game plan was just so much better than the defensive game plans. That's what happens in the playoffs when you're playing at this high of a level. But you mentioned Worthy, and I want to get into him. I want to get in the Chiefs offense as a whole, but I also want to acknowledge, because you talked about the culture that they've built and this, there is no me first sensibility with this team, which it's also like, I think it was like a blessing in disguise trading away Tyreek Hill, because now we see what happens when Tyreek Hill has the freedom that he has in Miami and things are and you're not winning every year and you're not a perennial contender. And you see how those kinds of attitudes can be infectious to your locker room. Like, everyone that comes here and knows all you have to do is contribute, do your job. Nobody's expecting you to be a future Hall of Famer. Nobody's expecting you to be the best player on the team. The only thing that we care about is that you realize that it's all about us as a collective. It's not about you as an individual. And Mahomes talks about that a ton. And credit to Andy Reid and his coaching staff, because that is something that they have preached. And I think it was something that, like, even when you talk about the Patriots dynasty, like at the time, it was like, how does Belichick do this? How does Brady do this? How do they get this out of everybody year after year after year? But then you see all of these coaches go other places and they're hated and despised and failures. And you hear all these stories about the Patriots dynasty, like afterwards, multiple cheating scandals, whatever, like about how it wasn't like, yeah, they won a lot and they were incredible and Belichick's one of the greatest ever. But it wasn't the type of like family atmosphere that this Kansas City Chiefs team has, where it's all about winning. It's all about working. It's all about greatness. And that's all they collectively care about. And the fact that they've been able to maintain that message for this long, to the point where they are on the brink of NFL history of being the greatest team that we have ever literally seen play this insanely complicated, absurd game that we all love, Rocky. Like, that's just something that deserves our acknowledgement, and it's something that I don't know if we're ever going to see again.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I don't think we ever will see it again unless the Chiefs turn around and do it again at another point, like late in Mahomes' career. Or maybe they're going to win 6 in a row. Like, I don't.
You froze a little bit, Rock, but I feel you. I hear
All
what
right.
you're saying.
You got me now?
Yes.
Am I back? All right.
You
Sorry.
with us? Yeah.
Yep, I'm here. All right. The thing about it is that the Chiefs lucked out that the most talented quarterback in the history of the NFL is also the son of a relief pitcher who played for the Yankees, right? You know, like you're not going to have a guy that's like a prima donna because his dad was like a setup guy. You know what I mean? And so like that like team first mentality has been ingrained in him from the very beginning. The second that he stepped into the league, he's always been the team first guy. And I think that's what part of the reason why him and Andy Reid have meshed so well together. And you do just see it, right? You mentioned Tyreek Hill, like they moved on from him for a reason. And at the time I was calling for them to move on from him over paying him because there's at some point, like, you know, there are a lot of benefits having Tyreek on your team, but there are some drawbacks as well. But you see that when you buy into the culture, that you can see these guys who are perceived as issues other places come in here and they're not issues anymore. Like Juju Smith-Schuster, before he came to the Kansas City Chiefs, was like, oh, he cares more about TikTok than football. All he's going to do is do TikTok dances out on the football field and blah, 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 blah. He's come in here, and yeah, part of it is because he's trying to continue his NFL career, and he was on the verge of being out of the league. But he's come in here and been a role player who had 2 huge catches in this game. And you just see that, though, like you mentioned, that you don't got to be the best player. You don't got to be the biggest personality, because no matter what you do, you're not going to be bigger than Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce can sign $100 million, you know, Wondery podcast deal, like you know, me and you will do someday. And he's still not bigger than Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. He could date Taylor Swift, and Patrick Mahomes is still bigger than him. No matter, so you can bring in whoever you want, because your quarterback is a team first guy, and he's the best player that's ever played the game of football. And so no matter who you bring in, like you have faith that these Hall of Fame level players who are team first are going to just fold them in and say, listen, this is what we do here. This is what we got going on. It's a good thing. Get in or get out.
Yeah. It's unreal. It's unprecedented. It's unlike anything that we have ever seen. And like, you think about a wide receiver like DeAndre Hopkins, who barely played in the divisional round, after I spent all week talking about how I was like, it's the playoffs now. It's time for Worthy. It's time for Hopkins. It's time for Hollywood Brown. Like, it's time to open up the roles of these wide receivers. And I would say we still haven't even fully seen that, Rocky. Like, Hopkins had a nice catch today. You mentioned Juju. Like, Juju had 2 huge catches in this game that were both at like critical moments in the game where the Chiefs needed a big play, big conversion. Juju's there for the big gain and breaks a tackle and runs for an extra 15 yards or so after the catch. Like, Juju was a monster today. Like, he was huge for the Chiefs when they needed him in the limited role they have. And that's also, too, I think, with their passing game, the way that it is currently constructed, it's just like they've got all of these role players. It's not just one superstar or 2 superstars anymore. They've got all of these role players that just fill the need that the Chiefs have to find, that like the void that they have to find within the offense. And all of those guys are capable of doing that. Hollywood Brown had a couple of big conversions today, and Hopkins, I think, only had 1, and then Juju, and then Worthy is the one that really steps up. And, you know, Travis Kelce has a quiet day, Rocky, and credit to the Bills. Like, Travis Kelce had the longest streak in NFL history of 70+ receiving yards in playoff games, and the Bills shut him down today. He had 2 catches for 19 yards, but that was the Bills' defensive game plan. Like, we can't allow Travis Kelce to beat us. But then you got this rookie, Xavier Worthy, which, by the way, the Chiefs were able to draft him because they traded up with the Buffalo Bills. And then halfway through the season, everybody's talking about how Worthy's a bust. He can't win man-to-man coverage. And as the Chiefs have expanded his role, and he was kind of thrown to the fire a little bit because of the Hollywood Brown injury and the Rashee Rice injury, where he goes from being like the fourth option on the team to weekly being the second option on the team behind Travis Kelce for most of the season. And he struggled a lot midway through the season. But the growth and the steps that he has taken as a player make me so confident. You talked about the development and how they've done with these wide receivers, and I can't wait to see year number 2 of Worthy with year number 3 of a healthy Rashee Rice next season. Like it feels like the Chiefs, after for years having like one of the worst wide receiver cores in the NFL since the Tyreek Hill trade, like might have 2 of the best wide receivers in the league come next year, or at least the most versatile guys that fit within their offense, that they will find a way to have those guys help them make plays. But Worthy's rise is like, to me, Rocky, it's almost even more impressive than what Rashee Rice did last year, because he's not the same kind of player. And he's kind of filling that Rashee Rice role now, Rocky. Like, he's not, instead of early on in the season, it was just like, hey, just send Worthy deep, see if we can utilize that speed and create some big plays. Like, he's getting crossers now, Rocky. Like, they're giving him the opportunity to cut across the field and try to break tackles and get into open space. He's getting design screens, and then he's adding this contested catch ability, which was on the tape at Texas. Like, that was something he could do, but because of his size, people were like, oh, that's not how he's going to win in the NFL. But maybe, just maybe, Rocky, Xavier Worthy is just a special player, and he's going to find a way to be impactful. And he's much more of a well-rounded wide receiver than anyone was giving him credit for early in the season. And he has done nothing but showcase that over the back half of the season and in the playoffs so far for the Chiefs offense.
Oh, 100%. Xavier Worthy continues to be my happiest pre-draft L I've ever eaten in my entire life. I was so out on Xavier Worthy when they drafted him, and I have never been so wrong about a player in my entire life. But you're absolutely right. The Chiefs have unlocked this idea that the way to develop a wide receiver is just to give them a bunch of wide, shallow crosses and help them build their confidence and help them learn how to pick up yards after the catch at the NFL level with NFL speed. And then you can start folding in the other stuff. And it's almost like it's the Andy Reid method of developing wide receivers, or just receivers in general. When he had Travis Kelce when he was younger, he gave him a ton of wide, shallow crosses until he developed into one of the best receivers in the history of the game. Rashee Rice last year, tons of wide, shallow crosses. Xavier Worthy, you see him doing the same thing this year. It's just get their confidence up, get the ball in their hands, help them get yards after the catch. And then as we coach them and we develop them, like, we'll start folding more things in and asking more of them. And it's remarkable. I mean, like you talk about like Andy Reid. If Andy Reid, if he wins this next game in the Super Bowl, that's his 45th postseason win, and that's the most all time, right? He's on the verge of having the most postseason wins in history, right?
I thought he was still a few more behind Belichick, but
I thought they said he was tied with Belichick tonight. I could be wrong.
I can look that up. I thought he was still a few more behind it, but I might be wrong.
Well, still, he's getting close.
Yeah, he's definitely getting very close to Belichick.
And there's just the sustained success of this team, I think, is the most impressive thing. You just do not see this in professional sports on the whole, no matter what. And it's crazy because you talk about everybody does their role. Justin Watson had his one play of the day. Every game, Justin Watson gives you one big play, and he's only going to show up and make that play when you really need it.
Can I just say I apologize, Justin Watson. Similar to MVS last season, you show up in the postseason, I will apologize for all slander that I have talked all season long.
Yeah.
Justin Watson, you are immortalized forever in Kansas City Chiefs history for that 2-point conversion.
Literally, like, difference in the game, right? You know, it's just like, it's crazy that these guys, you know, you mentioned Samaje Perine, one play, and it was the most important play of the game. And it's not that these guys, like you said, nobody expects these guys to be superstars, but everybody does their job, right? Except for Caliendo when he got completely thrown into Mahomes' lap and gave up a sack. That was the one time that somebody didn't do their job because he got destroyed on that rep.
Yeah. And that was tough. And there were some tough moments in this one. But before we move over to the defensive side of the ball, because that's really where I want to like dissect a few things, because we're not going to get too much into the Eagles because we got 2 weeks to talk about that stuff and totally break down this game here at Foolish Club. But I do think it's a really interesting matchup, because I do think they're the one team that was left in the playoffs where you could say like the Eagles might have more talent at like positions across the board than the Chiefs do. Like they were the one team that I thought you might be able to make the case where it's like defensive line, secondary, offensive line, like that Eagles roster is very, very talented. But I do want to talk about the Chiefs rushing attack, because it was something that I talked about on the Foolish Club pregame show earlier today. And it was something that I mentioned multiple times this week, which was this Buffalo Bills defense, which despite being pretty good against the run this season, it had always kind of been the Achilles heel of this team. Like even in the years where their defense has been really good, they've never been particularly dominant at stopping the run. And part of that is the way they choose to roster build. It's they want smaller, more athletic, versatile guys, not necessarily these huge gap fillers and things like that. Like that's kind of always the players that they've tried to covet on the defensive side of the ball. And part of the reason I think their run numbers were a little fake this season is because the offense was so good. They were just up constantly in games. And so teams abandon the run, they start throwing the football, and then they're a good defense at creating turnovers and all of that. So it's like when you just look at the box score of their rushing defense, it looks good on paper, but it was also by design, in my opinion, that Patrick Mahomes did not scramble at all in their first matchup in the regular season. And then Mahomes comes out today and is second on the team in rushing yards with 11 carries for 43 yards and 2 rushing scores. It was the first multi-rushing touchdown game of Patrick Mahomes' career. And that was by design, because the Chiefs knew there was going to be opportunities where Buffalo, the way they like to play you, if they're not running man, they're going to drop into zone coverage because they're still petrified that Patrick Mahomes is going to beat them deep. And it's going to leave a lot of lanes open for Patrick Mahomes to utilize his legs. And he did that super effectively today. And I thought overall, like, Chiefs rushing attack wasn't super explosive. Kareem Hunt was averaging 5.1 yards per carry in the first half. That slowed down in the second half, but still manages to find the end zone today. He finishes with 17 carries for 64 yards. Isaiah Pacheco, not super involved in the ground game, but he did have a really big reception late in the game that went for a first down. And really, Rocky, it's kind of what we've been talking about, where it was like, Pacheco is still going to be utilized in some ways, and he's got his moments, but the Chiefs just need to lean on the efficiency of Kareem Hunt, where it's not necessarily going to be pretty. It's not necessarily going to be explosive, but very rarely is it going to be negative. And that's what they got today. And it was just kind of nice to see that, because I feel like this offense had been missing a little bit of that for a while now.
Like, they're different types of runners, but Kareem Hunt gives you the same thing that Marcus Allen gave the Chiefs back when they had Joe Montana, is that he's going to dependably get you 4 yards, right? He's going to get you 4 yards. He's going to help you move the chains, and he's not going to put the football on the ground. And you can trust him. It's not going to be explosive, but he's going to move the chains. But I'll tell you what, the biggest surprise of this entire game to me was Andy Reid giving 0 Fs tonight and designing runs for Patrick Mahomes. Like, how often have we heard him in
touchdown run was a design quarterback run all the way, like he was Josh Allen, Rocky. We've never seen the Chiefs do that with Mahomes.
Not since Mahomes' knee turned around backwards on that sneak, and Andy Reid literally came out and said, "I'm done rushing the ball with Patrick Mahomes," basically for his entire career, because I don't want to risk him getting injured again. Has he ever done that? But with a 3-peat on the line, when you had to have it multiple times today, they called a designed run to Patrick Mahomes, which you never see. And you saw Andy Reid go for it on 4th down on the wrong side of his 50-yard line, which you also
I couldn't believe that.
You never see in the first half, nonetheless, right? And Andy Reid came out today saying, "We're like that's like they say, like if you want to beat the champs, you have to take the belt, right?" Andy Reid came out today and said, "Listen, we're the champs, AFC is ours. NFL is ours. We're back-to-back defending champions. You want the belt, take it, but we're not backing down. We're going to keep going at you. We're going to keep going forward. And if you want to stop us, then stop us, but you're going to have to do it. And it was so impressive that Andy Reid was able to get over that mental hurdle, because it's something that he gets criticized of, right? For being too conservative, not going for it on fourth down, like punting the ball, all these things. And today the Chiefs were like, you know what? F it. We're going for immortality. Like, if you want it, take it. And I could not be happier, could not be more proud of this team.
It was a perfect time for Andy Reid to finally decide to be aggressive. I feel like it was the first time he had decided to be aggressive since the Chiefs totally fumbled that fourth down play call at the end of the first half against the Bengals, and then it totally like sank them in the second half of that AFC Championship game. Like, I feel like that was the first time since then that Andy was like, screw it. We're talking about three-peat here. We're trying to go make NFL history. And I want to move over to the defensive side of the ball, and I see a ton of you guys in the comments right now. We'll get to some of your observations and stuff about the game. Please, as always, make sure you're subscribing to Foolish Club Media on YouTube. We're growing there. You guys have been so amazing and so supportive of everything that we have done this season, and we're just so happy that you guys have been along for the ride with us and supporting us while we're trying to build this thing. And it being in the midst of a third straight Super Bowl is insane. And so we really, really appreciate everything you guys have done to support us this year. So please keep subscribing. Please keep listening and paying attention to everything that we're doing to cover this team. But we will get to some of your comments here at some point. But before we move over to the defensive side of the ball, Rocky, because there's going to be this, ridiculous referee narrative, obviously, which I didn't even think there was anything like particularly bad in this game. Couple questionable calls, but also there was several questionable calls in the NFC Championship game. And instead of just acknowledging that NFL referees are garbage and that a lot of the rules are garbage, it's constantly trying to discredit everything that the Chiefs are doing, which is absolutely absurd. But I'm not going to have that conversation. Instead, I would like to talk about the fact that this is the second time now, Rocky, that we have seen one of the greatest playoff games I have ever watched between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. And credit to the Bills. It's got to suck to be Josh Allen and be this generational player where literally, and if he was alive in any other era of football, you're talking about this guy like he is one of the greatest players that we have ever seen. And I do think he is that. He's just not Patrick Mahomes, and he just can't get past Patrick Mahomes. And this is the second time now, man, where this is one of the greatest playoff games I've ever seen. And the 13-second game was probably, like, in terms of like shock and awe, like probably a better football game than this. But you simply can't ask for a better, more entertaining football game to watch, especially if you're just a spectator fan of both of these teams. There's no better teams in the NFL right now at giving you a more entertaining product than these two teams and when these two quarterbacks go head to head.
Oh my God, 100%. Like, in the regular season, it's kind of hard to get overly emotionally invested because you're like, okay, the Chiefs are going to win the West. The Chiefs are probably going to get the 1 seed by a couple of games. They're going to rest their guys on week 18. They're going to come out, they're going to play the Houston Texans. They're going to kind of play a vanilla game plan. They're going to control the game, and they're going to move on to the AFC Championship game, where they will then play a really good team in the Buffalo Bills or the Baltimore Ravens, and that's going to be a good game, and we hope they win to go on to the Super Bowl. Like, it's really a 1-game season for the Chiefs, and I'm so happy that this game happened because I feel alive for the first time in months. Like, I was like, am I still passionate about football? Because the Chiefs just win and win and win, and you at some point you're at risk of taking it all for granted. And it's not until you get in these games and these battles and these moments like this, and you're like you said, like dry heaving and panting and everything, and you're like, oh yeah, I still love this exactly as much as I always have, and I feel alive for the first time I have in all year long. And I apologize to my wife and kids. But no, I don't, because they know me. They know what I truly love. And
I was having like hot flashes during the second half of this
oh my
game.
God, it was incredible. And it's just a great time to be alive, man. And I don't envy Josh Allen, obviously, because he can't get over the hurdle against the Buffalo Bills. But I don't pity him either. And I feel like if Josh Allen's like, oh man, I can't get past the Chiefs, and Jim Kelly's like, try losing 3 times in the Super Bowl. Like try getting to the Super Bowl and losing 3 times. Like that hurts, and Buffalo is just a cursed city. And I'm okay with it because I was at my kid's soccer game today and there was a Buffalo Bills fan there, a lady. I just said, hey, good luck on today's game. Like I hope you guys play well. I hope it's a good game. And she looked at me. She goes, no, I don't wish you good luck. I just want the Bills to win. And it's like a kid she was like on my kid's soccer team, like a fellow mom on my kid's soccer team. And I said, well, you know what? In that case, I hope you guys play like garbage and we beat you really bad.
I don't even blame people for acting that way at this point, because as we've seen the success of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid is like, it makes people act crazy because it's unlike anything we've ever seen before. So instead of just acknowledging this is the greatest football player that any of us have literally ever seen in our entire lives, it's let's try to explain away why he's not so great. Why this individual player, better than anyone else that we've ever seen, can succeed in the most team-oriented sport in the country that is so dependent on so many variables. Why the hell does this guy find a way to keep doing it when so many other people have failed year after year? And it's the answer is simple and easy, Rocky. It's just he's the greatest player that we have ever seen, like hands down.
100%. I said it on Twitter during the game. And when we go to defense, I'll say this real quick though. Like, I don't give a crap about Patrick Mahomes' stat line. That was the best 218 yards you've ever seen anybody throw in a football game. Like, I don't care if somebody threw for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns in another game. Patrick Mahomes' game today was better. You've never seen anybody, with the exception of that fumble, play a better game of football than Patrick Mahomes played today. He was so locked in. He's the greatest of all time.
And I think it's worse for people now because he's taken this next step in his career where it's not flashy. He doesn't have to go out there and throw for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns anymore to win football games. Now he's cerebral like Peyton Manning was, where he's calling things and diagnosing everything at the line of scrimmage now, and he has full command and trust of the offense. And it's like, and I not to say that, like, I think one day there's a version of this Chiefs offense that is like a high-flying offensive attack again. But now that he has the ability to switch back and forth between the two, that's how you become unstoppable. And he's doing that at a higher level than anyone that we have ever seen. But last couple of things before we get out of here, I do want to talk about this defense and some of my concerns coming out of the AFC Championship game and a 32-29 win over the Bills. But in the first half, Rocky, Chiefs defensive line was tremendous. And I think they still had their moments in the second half. But in the first half, it felt like they were putting pressure on Josh Allen in a way that they simply just never put pressure on him when they saw this team in the regular season. Like, they simply just did not get after Josh Allen the way they were getting after him in the first half. The first drive of the game, Chris Jones nearly gets there early. They get pressure on him on back-to-back plays to the point where Josh Allen, who looked a little jittery to start things off, almost throws back-to-back interceptions to start this game. And in the first half, I thought the Chiefs pass rush was tremendous. Like, they were really getting after Josh Allen. Obviously they don't wind up sacking him a ton because the Bills offensive line's good, and Josh Allen just in general is extremely tough to bring down. But Chris Jones made the plays he needed him to. George Karlaftis had an impact. Mike Dana came up with a big sack. Tershawn Wharton had some really big run stops. Like, this Chiefs defensive line is a really, really good unit. And now that they're fully healthy and they've got this full rotation of guys up front, this defensive line is really, really fun to watch.
It's the one criticism. I mean, this defensive line played amazing, especially on the tush push. Like, everybody talks about the tush push is unstoppable. The Chiefs stopped it on multiple occasions today. Like that, and the tush push is just you're there. You get out of the snap faster. I mean, that one where Drew Tranquil jumped over the line, grabbed and twisted in midair to like pull down Josh Allen. Like it's just effort and want, and it's in getting the push. And so this D line
was a fourth down when trailing. Chiefs needed it. Chiefs had to get off the field. Chiefs had to get the offense back on the field. Yeah.
To quote Eric Bieniemy, you have to be willing to strain and drag your ass across the finish line, right? And the Chiefs were able to strain and drag their ass across the finish line. And that's the whole thing, too, is that Steve Spagnuolo's game plan today was a chef's kiss. I mean, it was the best game plan we've seen in a long time. And part of that is the Buffalo Bills' own fault, though, because they literally are so predictable on offense. Between the 30-yard lines, they're going to line up in jumbo formations and they're going to run the ball. And that we saw them do that. They run the ball at midfield as much as possible. When Josh Allen is under center, he's handing off the ball 85% of the time. And when he doesn't hand it off, he throws a swing pass to the right to James Cook. And that's exactly what we saw tonight. You see it over and over and over again. The Bills actually have a very, very, very predictable offense. Everybody talks about Joe Brady being this offensive mastermind. He does the exact same thing every game. The thing about it is they have a great offensive line and nobody can stop it. Well, they ran into a team today and a defensive coordinator that said, I'll stop it. Like, we're not going to stop it every time, but we're going to stop it when it matters, and we're going to get the stops. I mean, legitimately, if you go over to Arrowhead Pride and you read our prediction, I literally said in the game, like, they're going to run the ball at midfield, line up in jumbo formations, and if they're under center, they're not going to throw it most of the time. It's every single game. And the Chiefs knew that, and you saw that they were ready for it. And yeah, there were some times where they got beat, and Josh Allen, if he's under pressure, he's going to throw the ball up deep and make a prayer. And we saw that. He saw him do that multiple times today, and some of them he connected on. Thank God he didn't connect on the final one to Dalton Kincaid, because that was a horrible throw. I don't know how more of Josh Allen's passes don't get intercepted when he's under pressure, because all he literally does is close his eyes and chuck it as far as he can.
And really, Kincaid should have made that catch. Like he
should have made that. I mean, 3 Chiefs players should have made that catch also, really. But we're not talking about bad things today, because we're living in a world of good tonight, Steven Serda. We're living in a world of unsinkable good tonight. And so it's the Bills.
I mean, do you want to talk about the secondary? Do you want to talk about my gripes with
I want to talk about your boy Shamari Connor? No. Do I want to talk about Jalen Watson looking pretty good? Yeah. Do I want to talk about Trent McDuffie?
Well, yeah, but so I do want to talk about that. And so McDuffie gives up the first half touchdown to Matt Collins, and he gets flagged for pass interference, which, like, I felt like Matt Collins was pushing off more than McDuffie was interfering with that play, but whatever. All the calls go to the Chiefs. Like I thought that could have easily gone the other way. But that's also why everybody says, like, if you're a defender, just commit pass interference, because you're probably going to get called for it anyways. But McDuffie, stellar as always, other than that one play in the game. My biggest issue with the Chiefs secondary tonight, and Matt Collins gets, torches the Chiefs twice for really big plays in this game, and both times in part because Brian Cook was totally out of position on the deep ball, which is frustrating, because it seems like Jaden Hicks had carved out a larger role, and now they're leaning more into Brian Cook. And I'm like, why isn't Jaden Hicks on the field? But also, in part, early in the game, Shamari Connor out there in coverage again, coming out of the slot. And I don't understand why we're doing that. I don't understand, with the way the pass defense improved when Shamari Connor was down over the last month of the season, why is he just all of a sudden back in the lineup when he's the clear guy that opposing offenses want to attack, because they know he just doesn't have coverage skills? And it's like, okay, like Najee Johnson, I don't think is a great corner, but Najee Johnson's a better coverage player than Shamari Connor. So put Joshua Williams on the outside. If you're going to keep limiting Jalen Watson snaps, let's put Joshua Williams on the outside and then put Najee Johnson in the slot, or rotate Trent McDuffie there, where we know Trent McDuffie can be a versatile elite player no matter where he's at on the field. But then also Najee Johnson gets a start today, And Jalen Watson is, after we are expecting Jalen Watson to get significantly more snaps, and he did have his moments in this game, Jalen Watson's still a limited snap player. And it's like, this is the AFC Championship game, Spags. What are we doing here? Let's just get our best players on the field. I don't know what Joshua Williams has done to Steve Spagnuolo this season, but when Joshua Williams got a large sample of snaps, Joshua Williams was a better coverage player than Najee Johnson or Chamari Connor this season. So I don't understand why he can't get on the field on defense.
I mean, Chamari Connor still being in the slot at this point is kind of mind-numbing. And I'm with you on Brian Cook as well. And I was always a big Brian Cook guy, but I mean, man, back-to-back drop interceptions to start the game, and then he gets smoked on that deep pass when he's completely out of position. He goes wide when the guy has the seam and just gives up the middle of the field. It wasn't perfect on the back end for the Chiefs, but we knew that the Chiefs weren't going to be perfect on the back end. And to some extent, yes, Trey McDuffie's a stud, and yes, these guys were out of position. They made some bad plays, but also there's an element to Steve Spagnuolo's defense that puts a lot of pressure on defensive backs, right? When you're coming with cover zero blitzes, or you're blitzing as much as Steve Spagnuolo does, these guys are finding themselves in a lot of one-on-one matchups with no help. And you got to be able to hang. And that's not an excuse for any of these guys, but I think that there are reps where when they get beat, it looks way worse than it does for some. I think guys around the league get beat, but it looks worse on Steve Spagnuolo's defense when our guys get beat because there's no help, because he's sending guys like a GD Mad Hatter as much as possible. And he's like, I'm going down swinging. And it's why he's one of the greatest defensive coordinators in history. But it's great when it's great, and it's ugly when it's ugly, kind of thing,
Yeah, and I think some of it is we're spoiled from last year's version of the secondary in a lot of ways, but it's not always going to be perfect. And I'm not saying this is like a catastrophic turn for the Chiefs secondary or something like that. I think it's hard to read too much into these kinds of games, into these type of postseason games where you're getting everybody's best stuff. You're getting everybody's best shot to survive in advance and to chase greatness. And so I don't even think all of that is on the Chiefs defense, because they still made the plays when they had to. They still get the fourth down stop that is critical for Mahomes to get the ball back and go on a late fourth quarter scoring drive to retake the lead. They still get the fourth down stop on Josh Allen with Spags just blitzing the hell out of him. And the pressure getting there enough to where he just has to fling it downfield. And thankfully, Dalton Kincaid drops the football, and that winds up being the game-sealing fourth down. There's still the moments where Steve Spagnuolo is going to dial things up, and he's going to have the right call at the right time to affect the play just enough for it to make a difference in this game. I am still confident in the Chiefs defense. And now we've got 2 weeks to wait until we get to see them play for their third straight Super Bowl title. But I would like to see a little more adjustments to the secondary. I would like to see things tweaked a little bit before the Super Bowl in the secondary to feel just a little bit better about the group as a whole moving forward.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like you said, Philadelphia is an excellent roster. And are the Chiefs going to be able to get open against their secondary with their two young cornerbacks? We'll see. But one thing is for sure, I have faith that the Chiefs are going to be able to stop the tush push this time around. I'm not scared about Jalen Hurts and the tush push this
offensive
time.
Line's still very good in Philadelphia, despite missing Jason Kelce.
It is a very exceptional offensive line. It is one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. But so is the Buffalo Bills offensive line. Is one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And I feel like, I mean, I'm going to sound like a homer. I'm going to sound cheesy, but this team is destiny has put this team in motion, and they're going to finish it. I've never doubted them this year. I'm such a negative Nancy and such a doubter. Usually, Steven sort of by nature, 2 seasons ago, I was like, or even last season, I was like, the Chiefs aren't going to win the Super Bowl. They can't effing win a game. And when they lost to Las Vegas on Christmas last year, I was like, this team is done. And then they go on to win the Super Bowl. So this year, I'm like, you know what? I'm done doubting them. I learned my lesson. I'm not going to doubt Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to doubt Andy Reid. I'm not going to doubt Steve Spagnuolo. This is the greatest dynasty the NFL has ever seen, and they don't do it the way you would expect them to. That's the whole thing. The reason why people doubt the Chiefs is because they want to see them win by 28 points. They want to see them go out there and blow a team out like Philadelphia did today. But the Chiefs don't care about margin of victory. Yeah. They care about victory. And they say, we're going to get up. We're going to play the ball close to the vest. We're going to make you go on long drives. You're going to wait till you beat yourself. It's all formulaic. The Chiefs have a formula to win, and no other team has found a way to beat them consistently enough to keep them from hoisting the trophy. And they're going to hoist another Super Bowl this year.
And I think it's, this case to be made, it's the most impressive part of this run is that the Chiefs have done it in so many different ways. They just figure it out year after year. And if there was ever a year that we ever should have truly doubted them, it was last season. This team is better overall than last year, even though the defense isn't quite as good. They're still talented enough to get you where you want to go, and that's why they're in another Super Bowl. The offense is still good enough, and I have much more faith in this group of wide receivers than last year's group of wide receivers. Like, they just continue to do it in different ways, and it's been the most impressive part of all of this. But let's get to a couple of comments before we get out of here. This is a long one, but it was the AFC Championship game, third straight Super Bowl. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. From our guy, regular on the show, Elliot. His new name is Strong Hands Worthy. I know D-Hop worked with him on attacking the ball. My man is winning contested catches every game now. This is happening on a regular basis now, Rocky. Like, Xavier Worthy, he's got some hops. Like, he can go up and get the football. He's strong. He plays stronger than his body type would suggest, but he can do a lot of real wide receiver things. Like, he's not just a straight line speed guy like McCole Hardman is. Like, Worthy can run real routes and be effective in multiple ways. And he's done nothing but get better at that and excel at that over the last 6 or 7 weeks for the Chiefs.
I'll tell you what, when I saw Elliot put this comment up, I had a flashback to Scary Movie 3, and I pictured Xavier Worthy being like, I caught it with my strong hand. And that's exactly how it is. He's gone from the weak hand to the strong hand. And it's impressive. It's cool to see these guys develop parts of their game that you didn't think you didn't expect them to have and to become more than you expected them to be. And it's just it sounds dumb, but I'm really proud of the player he's become, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, his growth this season has been so fun to watch, and it's not just like because he's not AJ Brown or Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or like one of these just truly elite NFL wide receivers that's like a very specific type of build and player that like there's only a handful of those guys that are built that way across the entire league. But he is a versatile and dangerous weapon. And the Chiefs are maximizing his potential within the offense right now. And it's just been really, really fun to see his growth and his role expand over the entirety of the regular season. So that's one of the keys to me today. He just continues to look like he was a steal for the Chiefs and like he's going to be a significant part of their offense here moving forward.
Which we also have to say thank you, Buffalo, for Patrick Mahomes and Xavier Worthy for trading with us both times so we could get both of those players.
Yes, you would think they would stop doing that. I don't know why they pick up the Chiefs phone calls on draft day, but teams are weird and people can't get past their own ego sometimes. But from Random Productions, one of the best parts of the Chiefs win is the rapid reaction. So, well, thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. It's been an incredible season, and Rocky, really all I really have left to say is like, love you guys for hanging out with us tonight. We're on this ride together, and we'll have everything you need to know here at Foolish Club Media. And thank you guys so much for riding with us this weekend and putting your faith in us that we could build this thing up, and that and that we'll be here for you guys, and we'll have something you can listen to. We'll have something that you can watch, and we're going to keep trying to get better and figure things out along the way. So just thank you guys so much for supporting us all this NFL season.
Oh, 100%. Guys, you guys have been awesome, and we feel the love. And Gordon, I'm sorry your kid won't go to bed, but awesome that you're watching us over in Scotland. I love that, dude. And
Amazing.
Dude, have another pint. The Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. Everybody go out. If you drink, have a drink at home. Be safe. Get home safe. If you're out, get home safe. Don't be dumb. But celebrate tonight, because this, like, other fan bases would kill to have one of what we have, and we're getting ready to go for our third straight.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever done that before. This is the golden era of not just Chiefs football, but of the NFL. This is history being made right now.
It's literally never happened before. Nobody has ever come close to this type of feat in the Super Bowl era. If the Chiefs pull this off, it is the greatest accomplishment in NFL history, hands down. So let's all enjoy it together. We'll try to do our best to make sure you guys enjoy it here at Foolish Club Media. As always, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review everything that we're doing here. Please follow us on YouTube. We're growing there each and every week, thanks to you guys. So thank you for all the support. Let's go get a third straight ring. Let's make NFL history and go have a couple of drinks and celebrate this win tonight, Kansas City. Rocky, love you. We'll talk to you again next week here on the podcast network, and we will be back for the Super Bowl and hopefully celebrating another Kansas City Chiefs win.